I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Twice as good. Item 2, instructions on exiting the building again, please.
Sure. So if we have an emergency while we're in this room, you can go out the left or right side of the door into the corners of the building and go down the stairs and get outside. If you are joining us remotely and would like to speak during any item on the agenda, feel free to raise your hand in the webinar and I will have the chair call on you. Other than that, we are not monitoring the chat for content. We are now, let me see if I can.
Okay, so item 3, agenda review. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes in the order of agenda items tonight's meeting? No? Great. Item 4, comments and questions from the public not related to the agenda. Are there any? Oh, the person in the back. Please identify yourself.
Brian Doyle. Steve, can you hear from there? Sometimes when I'm online, I can't hear. Okay, thanks. I don't know what materials went out in your packet today. So I want to just make sure and turn your attention to the City Council's Declaration of Inclusion, which was passed in 2022, 4 years ago. It's a really great document. I think it's very worth being front and center during these kinds of processes. I go to a lot of committee meetings. I go to about 5 different committees, and I see things that tend to work well and things that don't tend to work well between different committees, their interactions with their liaisons and staff, as well as just the general bodies of the committees. I think there are lots of places where the effectiveness can break down. And I think it's both in terms of having the right staff person there and very clear procedures. But the other side of that is having a really qualified public, both in terms of knowledge of the topics that they're actually discussing, and or a really good spread or diversity in who's bringing that kind of information to the table. I think one of the biggest challenges we have in municipal government is that most people don't have the extra time to give in their lives. They're busy with kids, jobs, and they're expensive right now. And so it becomes even harder to actually obtain that level of diversity of perspective and experience with these topics. So I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind as you're going through these types of things today. And I'll just keep it there for now. I think you guys are going directly into executive session after. Not today.
Oh, at the end of the agenda.
Yes, at the end of the agenda. Sorry for vagueness. Thank you.
Ask Brian a question.
Well, are you finished?
Yeah, I'll close there.
Well, it's not on the agenda. Did you have something brief that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, are there particular groups of people, or, I mean, you mentioned people with kids, people who are working,
It's not so much about a particular group, although obviously people with kids, people who rent are just much less represented on boards in general. It always skews more towards people who are well established and have free time or close to or at retirement. That's just a natural thing that goes along with it. I think I would say that there are some people who have had an outsized voice that is very hard for other voices to even engage with or perspectives to engage with. And that's been just allowed for a long time without really being checked well, especially in terms of maybe certain behaviors around entitlement to participation in various aspects to try to be gentle about it.
Thanks, Ron. Item 4, comments. Item 5, conduct the interviews for the city appointed boards and committees. And we have a list in front of us, and we'll go from the top to the bottom. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. Do you want me to run through the seats available? I know that was helpful to you guys last time. I'm sorry. So going from bike ped first, you have 4 3-year seats and 2 2-year seats to appoint. And you have 2 incumbents applying.
So it's 2 incumbents.
No, 4
4
3.
total.
No, six.
No, 606.
4 3-year seats, 2 2-year seats, and 2 incumbents. For economic development, you have 2 3-year seats and 1 incumbent. For energy, you have 3 3-year seats, 1 1-year seat, and 1 incumbent. For NRCC, you have 3 3-year seats, 1 2-year seat, 2 incumbents applying, and 1 prior incumbent. For pension, you have 1 1-year seat and 1 incumbent. For planning commission, you have 1 3-year seat and 1 4-year seat and 1 incumbent applying. For housing, you have 3 3-year seats, 1 2-year seat, and 2 incumbents applying. And then for public art, you have 2 3-year seats and 2 incumbents applying. I will also note that you have 16 interviews scheduled for tonight, so if each one goes 15 minutes, that is 4 hours.
We'll try to go a little faster already. I know you've been glad today.
Just say, I
No, I
for
mean,
context, I
no.
wanted to share with you where you're going over this.
As we go along, would it be possible for, if there are incumbents on this list, would you just note that when we,
So the only incumbent is noted.
okay, thank you.
All the others are.
Okay, got it, thank you, didn't notice that.
Let's check this off. The first up is Kim Maxwell.
Come here.
My interview seat.
Why don't you tell us something about yourself?
Kim Maxwell, and as the comment or made earlier, I'm nearing retirement, so I do have more free time. So I use the bike path all the time. So I thought if I could lend a voice, lend a ear, I'm willing to do so.
And you live in Oak Creek. How long have you lived there? Or in South Burlington? How long?
It is Oak Creek, but 15, 20 years. I lose track. It's 20 plus, actually, if I think about it, yeah.
What do you think about the current state of the bike path network in our city?
I think it's good. It certainly, I fully get there's financial and other issues in the way, but I mean, it's good. It'd be great if we could connect more to each other, but it's definitely a good start. It's fairly likable. I love the future plan to get over the interstate. That would be great to safely get over that.
Where do you mostly bike now, which guys?
Well, I am in Oak Creek, so a lot of them around there, which, 116 is another safety hazard for us out there to get into town.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've biked a lot.
See, when you come up like Bubba Farms and up Dorset.
That's what I did today, yeah.
Bubba Farms.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, and I like that it easily connects down to, I don't know what we call it, but off Spear Street. Yeah, and we get into Burlington that way. So yeah, all those connections are great. We can get to Shelburne that way, but obviously, more that we can make better. So some other, what's that?
What do you do in banking?
I still bank.
Oh.
Near retirement, I still have a few years. I mostly manage people, manage processes, not a banker. I'm behind the scenes.
Okay, like project manager kind of thing?
It's operations.
Operations,
Yeah.
okay.
So you work with people on groups of people and.
I'm on a lot of projects, yes.
That's my lot of work with people.
Yes, pretty much my daily routine is being in meetings and listening to ideas and trying to come up with solutions. Work for most.
Thank you. And thank you for applying It's awkward. It feels like we're grilling you, but you're really standing up. It always seemed like that to me. So thank you for sitting there and letting us ask you.
Chance to attend any of their meetings beforehand?
I haven't recently, honestly, it's probably been. Time flies, but it's probably been a decade since I attended a few. Life gets in the way.
So a while ago.
Yeah.
And you think you have time to go to their meetings?
Yes, the child is out of the house.
Other questions? You e-bike or regular bike?
Right.
You have an e-motor that you drive 50 miles an hour down the road? Find out.
I would not, I'd be a little scared to do that. But yes, I have seen, some.
Biker gangs?
Some issues, yes, some young biker gangs with their motorized bikes.
No, it's not labeling.
It's not quite the wild one, from 1958 or whatever.
Exactly.
It was, but. You have any questions for us at all? This is process questions?
No, I don't know. I guess the general one, when are the committees finalized?
We would probably be going into executive session and then we would probably go on to the next meeting. And then you would be notified one way or the other.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. for
Thank
coming.
you. I will depart. Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll give feedback on, I saw the new signs, they look good.
Awesome. Next up is Charles Backup.
This came in. You are the one, I don't know, so somebody just came in, but
Okay.
Tim is here.
Oh, well, sure.
Just wanted me to know, on the spreadsheet today, there were no second choices for folks. Is that because no one got a second choice?
Oh, no, people do have second choices.
Kim did have a second choice.
No.
Well, it's on their applications.
Right.
Are you Charles?
Yes.
Well, you're next.
Okay.
Are you ready?
You're up.
Sure. You want to go out and get prepared, let's get second. Okay, fine. There's a green room though. But sit down. Welcome. Thanks for coming and thanks for applying. This is for the economic development. And so would you like to tell us something about yourself?
I live in South Burlington. I've lived in South Burlington since 2021, but I've lived in other parts of the state for a number of years. I work as an international economic development consultant, and I've been doing this for close on to 40 years now. I haven't really done much in the United States, but I think some of the concepts and principles and goals are the same. Some of the tools that one uses are similar or adaptable to different circumstances.
Most of your work has been in finance, is that?
Well, finance, but more in trying to attract investment, develop the infrastructure that investors need, and this is a feature that may not be applicable to South Burlington, but in a lot of countries that I work in, there's a lot of work on trying to lessen the regulatory burden on companies that are trying to do business or invest. So some policy changes, but yeah, basically it is a question of trying to raise capital to attract investors and to provide things like industrial parks and economic zones and so forth.
What are some of the countries that you worked in?
I've worked in about 60 countries.
Did you go to each one?
Sorry?
Did you travel to each one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to actually more than 100 countries, but for work, it's about 60. A lot of countries in Africa.
Yeah.
A couple in the Caribbean, quite a few in Eastern Europe, and then in Central Asia. Back then, going to Uzbekistan next week, just for weeks.
Can you describe a project that kind of leveraged a lot of your skills and life experience?
Well, one of the projects that I'm pretty proud of. I have a small company. Mostly I just work as a freelance consultant. But going back to about 20 and thereabouts, my country won a contract with the Inter-American Development Bank to do a pre-feasibility study for a special economic zone in northern Haiti. And this was right after the earthquake. So there was certainly a lot of interest in getting things, getting the economy running again. And in fact, it was something that Hillary Clinton, who was Secretary of State at the time, was very keen to see happen. Her assistant, Cheryl Knowles, made that very clear to me in quite a few telephone conversations. But so I assembled a team. We went in, we did a preliminary assessment. First of all, we identified about 5 or 6 different sites and ranked them on different categories of, what they had that was good, what they had that was perhaps not as good as another. And so we came up with a list of I think 5 and ranked them in order. The Minister of Finance picked number 3. Okay, so that happens. And we did pretty much a full feasibility study, financial analysis, demand projections, and this was pretty far outside my wheelhouse, but I managed to recruit a few people who were more expert than I to do an environmental and social impact assessment. And in contrast to a lot of projects that I've worked on, this actually got built. It got developed. There were some very big investors that came in. And if you go look it up, there may have been some environmental issues that were not fully addressed. But in general, I think it was done professionally and well. And again, there were certain projections of how tens of thousands of jobs they were going to create. They didn't create that many, but at its peak, I think it was in the order of 25,000 jobs. So that I think is one project that I, despite the criticism, if you look it up online, you'll find different things. But I think it was really one of the things that I'm most proud of in my career.
Did you do contracts for AID or for Matrix or ARD or anything like that?
I've never actually worked for ARD. I know people who have. I used to do before it was, I think, put in the wood chipper. I did a third and worked for the USAID. I worked for the World Bank. I worked for the Asian Development Bank. I worked for private clients.
Investors do you deal with? Like, I'm just curious. And I'm going to say this to everybody tonight, sorry, but thank you for applying. I think it's a big thing for people to step up and, offer to give their time to the community. So thank you for doing that. I'm just curious, like, what types of investments did you attract to your projects? Or investors, rather. What types
Well,
of
in the case
businesses?
of Haiti, what with doing these industrial zones, you're trying to attract kind of an anchor and a big company that will then encourage other companies to come in, and will also then bring in some of its subcontractors and so forth. So there was in Haiti, there was a group called SAE hyphen A. Don't ask me what that stands for, but it's one of the largest garment manufacturers. Clothing.
Oh, okay, I just said gun. Sorry, I'm a little.
Gun manufacturing, that's a little bit not, this was garden, clothing. And that's something Haiti has, used to be part of that. Now with all the gang violence and so forth, I don't know. Haiti also used to make all of the baseballs for major leagues. So, there's been a textile and clothing industry there for some time in different parts of the country. But this was an opportunity to attract investment in an area that hadn't attracted a whole lot of investment before, but it had a lot of advantages. So that's and then I've done a lot of work in agriculture, agro-industrial kinds of things. I led a project for 3 years in Sudan, working in the livestock sector, trying to find opportunities to attract both domestic and foreign investment. So there are a couple of big food processing companies there, and now if you think of Sudan, you probably think of it as it's a war zone for sure. But there were some very capable companies there. So. And then, of course, the wheels came off. But we had, identified about 5 different projects. One was to develop cold stores at the airport, so they could. Livestock is a big deal in Sudan, and so they could, put fresh meat or chilled meat onto an airplane. But you need proper cold stores, which they have. Setting up some kind of agro-industrial zone for the industry. We looked at some opportunities in tanning, which didn't really seem to be financially viable, and also working on developing or improving veterinary services, and also they have an animal vaccine manufacturing company, which was not really operating at or doing as much as they could, and so again, we're trying to bring in international investors who could then bring that up to a proper level.
So if you had to apply all this expertise to the city of South Burlington and economic development, what would you recommend? What do you think you might recommend?
Well, I think technology is obviously a big driver here, and
You've been following the whole GAN Tech Hub.
sorry.
You've been following the GAN, the gallium nitride tech hub process.
Yeah, and so there is also, and I haven't really looked into this very much, but there is I don't know if you're familiar with foreign trade zones. They have them all over the country. They're unlike in most other countries I've worked in, these are wholly publicly owned. And so there's one, I think it's at or adjacent to the airport. And I don't know, it may be that I haven't really followed it closely, but Beta may have started its operations there. So that's something that you could be further developed. I do a lot of bicycle riding with the Green Mountain Bicycle Club, and I would say, most of the people my age or thereabouts, and I would say that at least half of them are former employees of IBM, Global Foundries, so on. So I think that's some, I think that people who don't live in Vermont or don't live in this part of Vermont, they think of cows and ski areas and so forth. But this is really a technology hub, and I think that's something that, I don't know what it takes to attract a specific company to come here rather than to New Hampshire or Montana or whatever. But I think that's something that we would want to try and encourage and see if there are certain roadblocks that might be preventing them from, again, they could lack of information or certain procedural roadblocks or lack of infrastructure or lack of land. And so these are things that are addressable. But I think that's the first thing that comes to mind.
You had a chance to attend any of the previous meetings? Do you know anybody on the committee at this point?
I don't. Okay.
You have time to be able to attend those meetings?
Yes, oh, sure.
Charles, how, you have connections with the business community?
I don't, actually. I mean, I was still working full-time when we moved up here, and it was really only in the last 1 to 2 years that things started falling off, and we opened the thing for that. But so no, I don't have a lot of connections with the business community, but I have in my career been pretty good at developing contacts with business community, whatever field or location I have been working.
Any questions for us?
What exactly do you know? What do you do? How do you?
We don't know. We have to come to meetings all the time and try to figure stuff out. Luckily, we have this city manager here that knows everything.
You mean, what does the committee do?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's,
Yeah.
there's a new document, economic development strategy document, which is basically gonna be a roadmap. Right, for the city over the next 3, 5, 10 years, how to incubate, foster, nurture the businesses that do have, how to attract new businesses. And I think basically the economic development is probably going to be mostly focused on executing on that strategy.
Yeah.
It's probably going to consume most of the time.
Yeah. What do you see as the main opportunities? I mean,
Yeah, I would echo what you said, tech. Right, we've got, great little core of tech businesses. We have a great story to tell about green tech and climate friendly tech. And I think that if you mass those businesses and get scale and you got big opportunity.
And figure out how to bring housing into housing.
I was just about to bring that up. And one of the things that you see here, in contrast to our neighboring city, is there's a lot more building of housing going on here. And that, I think, is, it's almost an existential thing to get people to stay in Vermont or who come there and can afford to live here and work here. So yeah, I think that goes, you can have all the industry you want, but if there's no place or if there's not enough workers, or there's no place for workers to live and whatever it is they make, it's not going to.
We've got to keep moving because we have a lot of people interviewed today.
Okay.
So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And
Well, thank you.
we will let you know by June 6th. Is that right?
So your council meeting is on June 15th,
15th.
you will likely vote, and then we will notify everybody in writing following this.
All right, great. Well, I very much like to be part of the committee. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you.
Next we have is Jason. I see Jason. So.
There we go. Am I there now?
Yes. Hi, Jason.
Hi there. Sorry I can't be there in person, but nice to virtually meet you all.
That's what the technology is for. Can you see us?
I can, yes.
Great. Thanks. What?
I don't know how to undo the duplicate.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks for applying, and you're interested in the Economic Development Committee. You want to give us some of your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am originally from the Berkshires, from Western Massachusetts, went to college at Dartmouth, studied neuroscience, computer science, moved to New York City after college, worked at a string of mildly successful, non-wildly successful tech startups, got married, decided, we didn't want to settle in New York forever, decided to move back to New England. There's not much going on in the Berkshires, so kept going north and ended up in South Burlington in 2019. Obviously, COVID hit, was a great place to be at the time. And the rest is sort of history. Have two young daughters, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. I work remotely for a VC venture capital firm called MVP Ventures. We invest in tech startups across the country, and I do a little bit locally in that space as well, a combination of personal investing and working with programs like Launch VT, et cetera, to sort of mentor and hopefully help grow the local startup ecosystem.
And tell me why you applied for the Economic Development Committee.
Yeah, so sort of similar to the general mentoring of other startups, I think Vermont is at an interesting crossroads in a lot of ways that, what we've been doing for a long time may not be working so well, and we sort of have to figure out, what's next, where do we go from here? And I think, there's an interesting place. One of the things I love about Vermont is that you can have an impact on a small scale. And so I think the towns and cities in Vermont have an opportunity to do sort of a lot more, where in other states it might be the state level. And so, economic development hits close to home as like I want to see the startup and general business ecosystem here in South Burlington and Vermont overall grow and succeed. And I think I have some background and skills to contribute to help to that.
Have you attended any of their meetings?
I have not. I've read minutes and notes, but I have not attended.
Council questions?
You've got a really interesting background, Jason. So I'm interested in your work with tech startups and how you see that at all intersecting with really the kind of the town's strategic, city strategic goals of attracting more tech investors and tech businesses.
Yeah, I think you were touching on it a little bit with the last interview as well. But I think we do have some really interesting opportunities here with the Gallium Nitride Innovation Center, with UVM, obviously, with Global Foundries, and then with things like Beta Success. I think there's really an opportunity to really grow that tech. Like personally, my personal perspective is that we're a small state, it's a small city. We can't be great at everything. If I was the one pulling all the levers, what I would love to see is sort of a specific focus or couple focuses that's sort of a joint effort between the towns, the local companies that are sort of doing things like the ones I mentioned, the state, UVM, to sort of focus on an area or two where we can really be known for those areas. And I think it's hard to attract talent as a small state, a small city in 100 different areas at a time. I think as you start to get known and build success and build a reputation in a handful of areas, I think that's sort of where you start to see a snowballing effect. And I think we have some of the groundwork there already with some of the larger successful companies.
It sounds like, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It sounds like, so you work with a bunch of tech companies. Have any of them said, hey, I want to be in South Burlington? If not, why not? And what do you think we would need to do to attract them?
I think talent pool is the biggest one, honestly. I mean, I think companies grow where they can hire good people. And I think, that's why things like the gallium nitride area, things like, hopefully Beta is very successful and a lot of people leave Beta and go start more companies in the battery space and the electric space. I think it sort of hopefully develops this center of talent that draws people, and then, with the people come the companies. Then there's obviously a course of, this is probably above the town policy pay grade, but things like tax policy and all that sort of stuff that a company factors in. But above all, I think it's just having the talent base.
Okay, no, I'm good. Thank you. Can you just talk, Jason, quickly about the portfolio that you're involved in now with MVP? Any focus areas or?
Yeah, so we focus mostly on tech startups. We call it deep tech. So it's a lot of robotics and a lot of AI, which is popular right now. In terms of local companies, it's sort of the Beta. Like Beta would have been an ideal investment for us if MVP had existed 5 years ago. By the time we started the firm, it was a little too far along. There's some other great things we do locally. I think we have a lot of strong med tech startups. That's something that at MVP we don't personally focus on, which is maybe why we haven't invested much in local companies. But I think especially the green tech, battery tech, environmental tech, and a lot of the software-based AI type things can really be anywhere.
So, the committee that you're applying to has only 2 open seats and a lot of applicants. So just to be, transparent with the
Hey, I'd love
process.
to see that. That's great. I'm glad there's
No, I
some
mean,
good,
we have
strong
been
civic engagement.
incredibly talented folks that come and want to volunteer their time. I'm just amazed. It's really, really cool. But given that reality, I see that you've also indicated Rec and Park as, do I have that right? As a second
Yeah.
choice. Out of it?
Yeah, I think in the last couple of years, it seems like they've been really doing great stuff, both for like kids and families in general. And I just think they're doing a really good job. And I love that sort of thing that just gets the town out, gets, people meeting each other outside of their typical neighborhood school bubble, wherever it may be. So yeah, definitely another area of interest.
I know it wouldn't leverage your kind of talent set, but if that's something you're interested in, just something we all need to keep in mind here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they're doing slightly different level of impact. I think the rec committee does a lot of great stuff and attracts people to town and makes people happy and gets them staying. I think the economic development is obviously a little more, longer term, not more serious, but it's sort of just a different level of focus.
Any other questions? You have any questions for us?
I know you have a lot, so I'm not gonna take a ton of your time. I guess the main thing is like what skills are you looking for on the committee now that like are lacking?
I don't think they're lacking. That's a pretty good committee right now with good leadership. And of course, the economic development plan has been delivered by the consultant to us, right? So there's a roadmap, and people are well connected.
But there's a ton to do. That strategy document has in it, it's a fire hose of strategies and tactics. And anyone that's willing to come in and roll their sleeves and work on some of that would accomplish a lot and be really welcome.
Yeah. Hey, I love getting my hands dirty. So, both just would generally love to be involved more. So that's sort of the impetus on the applications.
Great, thanks, Jason. So we'll let you know by June 15th, one way or the other.
Sounds great. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So now it's Tim Jarvis. You look familiar. See you somewhere. Been in this room before. Good evening, welcome. And thanks for applying to the committee. Give us some background.
Born and raised here, grew up on Logwood Street over by the airport, went to all the schools. Graduated from SBHS and went to Dartmouth. Then I went in the Peace Corps as an English teacher in Zaire, or the Democratic Republic of Congo, it's called now, which really created my interest in international work. And so I ended up going to grad school at the Thunderbird School of Global Management, niche international business school in Arizona, and was recruited by Morgan Stanley to work in their operations group as they were expanding their global presence and opening up offices in Europe and Asia. So that was a great opportunity. And from that point on, I was working in a variety of countries. I was in Luxembourg for 6 years when the new mutual fund laws had opened up operations for a lot of the American banks at that time in the 90s. I opened up Morgan Stanley's operations in India, which it was the first foreign international management company to have a local presence in India. Never lived there, but I visited about 25 times and I was always back and forth to India. Morgan Stanley sold that business to JP Morgan Chase. At that time, I was living in Hong Kong, so I was running the Asia Pacific region for the custody securities line of business for JP Morgan Chase. Came back to the States finally. Spent 3 years in product development. And I was working with Vanguard. I led the team for Vanguard to start their exchange traded funds and to give JP Morgan Chase the capability to support that with a new product line. And subsequently, Vanguard has become a leader. It went from zero when I was there to trillions of dollars now. So I was living in New York City during 9/11, and my wife, who was South African, wasn't really thrilled about being in New York City at that time. So JP Morgan gave me the opportunity to go to Australia. So I went to Australia for 3 years and did some strategic projects there in outsourcing. Decided to take a break. I took a sabbatical to be certified as a executive coach. Went up to New York City to sell my wares to some of my former colleagues. And instead of becoming an executive coach, I was offered the job to be head of international operations for Morgan Stanley. So I grabbed that. And Morgan Stanley eventually sold that business. Every job change I had was resulting from a merger or acquisition decision, but I was never laid off. I just kept getting new jobs with different companies. And with State Street, I was living in Connecticut and working out in New York City. My career shifted a little bit because instead of running operations, I was running client management relationships. So Morgan Stanley was one of my clients, Vanguard, Deutsche Bank, and others, where I was running the relationships with a lot of senior contacts, working with COOs, working with heads of operations for 1999 until I retired. I came to Vermont during COVID. My boss was in London and she didn't really care where I was. I could work from home in Connecticut or I could work from home in Vermont. So I wanted to come home because my parents are aging and my siblings live here, and I always wanted to eventually come back to South. So that afforded me a great opportunity to do so. And so we moved here. I have twin girls who are now 16 and 10th grade. They were about to go into 6th grade. So we moved here in August and they had to start school in like 3 weeks. I had to buy a house. There were no homes in the market. It was pretty crazy time. So we settled in here, and eventually I retired from the corporate job and decided to work for the school district. So I worked for about 3 years, a little under 3 years, with the school district, senior director of finance and operations, where I met a lot of you, and was in charge of finance and operations and nutrition and transportation. And after 3 years, I decided that I had had enough of that particular job. And so I retired then. And so I'm a free agent now. I applied for the deputy city manager job and was very pleased to see that you found such a wonderful candidate and made me feel better. I didn't get it myself.
64 applications for that job.
So no, I don't feel bad about this. No, succeeded in that opportunity. I saw that this position for the EDC was open, and I really want to do something. I want to contribute to the city in a meaningful way. I did a lot of homework. I've read the economic development strategy document now twice. Once before the deputy city manager interview, and then I read it again yesterday and this morning. So refreshed myself. It's very exciting. There's a lot to do. I think the comment about, the capacity, there are so many wonderful things in that document, and the city plan itself. But I shudder at who's going to do all this stuff, because there's so many different avenues. And so, you know, unlike the previous people who just spoke, I mean, I don't have direct experience in venture capital and things like that. I mean, I have a lot of transferable business skills and communication skill, and collaboration skills and whatnot. So I do think I can add a lot of value to this. I think maybe one thing I have that other candidates don't is my relationship with the school district. And so I was very interested in the section of the document talking about talent acquisition, retention, and how you need to build relationships with
This is my team, and we get
colleges around here to really focus in a concentrated and systematic way to develop this talent pool that these new businesses will want to see evidence of before making large investments in the city. So I think that's one area that I would be particularly interested in is working on that whole people talent acquisition component of the plan, but I think I can add value in all the different streams as well.
Thank you for applying. We're really lucky to have talented, incredibly experienced professionals stepping up to help. So thank you for that.
Very good, Sue.
Yeah.
Tim, you're one of the few people I can ask this question to, but since you've read the plan and you have experience in the school system and just as a dad of students in the system, where do you think public education can better support? You've kind of alluded to this would be an interest area, but have you had thoughts?
Well, I've had some experience with it. Nikki St. Mary is the person at the high school who is in charge of sort of career guidance and internships and things like that. So she's invited me to the high school numerous times to meet with people who are interested, to talk to someone about careers. And so I think that is something at the high school level that we could further expand, you know, instead of one-offs, to have it a little bit more systematic of how do we tie all these pieces together. And my kids are 16. I mean, you know, they were looking for summer jobs. I don't know if they're going to some of these other companies, but clearly there's a need to have a process put in place that helps South Burlington high school students to be a feeder system. Now, obviously, we probably want most of them to go to college, but not all of them. And whether it's building connections with the technical centers in Burlington and Essex, as well as the high school, and really just creating the relationships with these local companies. I know I was mentoring a woman who was actually on the school board representative a few years ago, Rama Anani, who went to Columbia, and she had an internship at OnLogic, and you know. But that's kind of a one-off too. Like, is there a process in place to work with OnLogic or with Data or with other companies, you know, starting in January to get these kids internships for the summer? I'm not sure if there is or not. She happened to be friends with somebody there.
I second that because I have a 20-year-old at UVM and we're looking for an internship. He decided to take a semester off and
Yeah.
it's very hard to find.
So that's a particular area that I would love to explore.
Does it include the trades as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, you know, for the entry-level jobs at Data, I think OnLogic maybe a little bit of a tougher sell, but from what I work with actually, I would think that creating a formal relationship with the tech centers, including perhaps altering the curriculum of the tech centers, specifically to be aligned with what a company like Data needs and other companies that come in with similar needs. If you can demonstrate that you have a formal program, it would also be part of the selling points as well about South Burlington. And this is what we do with our kids. And that's something I'd love to do.
Have you been to the meetings?
I haven't been to any of the meetings, but I've read the last year's worth of of meeting notes,
Minutes?
minutes, and so it gave me some familiarity with, you know, a lot of it obviously was dealing with the development of the strategy document. I'm a little bit interested about, I'm not sure what, I think it's SB 3C. I'm not exactly sure what they do, but they seem to be kind of in parallel with the things, some of the things that this, that the EDC does. You know, there's some probably overlap and specific differences, but
They're downtown, they're development organization.
City center, business, retail, whatever, you know, restaurant.
So I'll echo that. I mean, we are incredibly lucky to have this. I say it again, amazing applicants. Thank you, Tim. Your background is amazing. That experience. We only have 2 seats and 5 people applying, and I wish we could put all 5 people, or the people certainly that we've met so far, because each one would clearly add tremendous value, but I don't think. So we're going to be forced to select, and I'm just wondering, in that vein, whether or not there's another committee, say, that you'd be interested in. If
I might be, you know, this one was clearly the one that I was most interested in. I don't think I want to be the sexton.
I mean, we'll see. The one committee that seems to have a dearth of applicants, or at least has more seats than applicants so far, is energy. The other ones also, as far as I can tell, seem to have more applicants than seats. So that's one thing I can share.
Yeah, I mean, after you go through the decision-making process, you know, if there is, I don't know anything about the energy committee. It's not really kind of my thing, but I want to serve. I really, I mean, I'm currently retired. I may get another job, but I'm currently retired. I just, you know, I mentioned in my application, my father was on the first city council in South Burlington in 1971. And he's now 90 years old, but he still lives in the old days when he says the city has changed a lot since then. But, you know, I really want to do something worthwhile, and not just, you know, sit by the pool. So if the city needs my skills or talent in different
You'd be open if we offered, like if there was a slot somewhere and we offered that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to say no.
Okay.
Were there not enough fewer applicants than positions on planning? Or did I
Two
do that?
slots and 3 applicants.
Lots of 3 applicants, okay.
It's great that you have this.
It's crazy.
And I was listening to the 2 people before me, and it's like, oh crap.
Last week, I mean, the librarian for 35 years wants to be on the library board, and like, it's just like it's really important. Yeah.
Sorry, Joe, a little harder.
We gotta keep going. So, thanks, Tim, for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch by the 15th. One there again. Thank you. Will you send in Amy when you go out, or tell Amy? Amy. Amy.
I'm on the same page.
There she is. Come on down. Good evening. Thank you for applying to the Economic Development Committee. You look really cool.
Come in, Steve.
Come on in. You can have a seat. But we always ask everybody to tell us something about themselves and their background. So please.
Yeah, so my name is Amy Allen, and I was a stay-at-home parent, but prior to that, I was a consultant for the U.S. Agency for International Development. I worked on a business environment reform program. So a lot of the stuff in the economic development strategy I have done. Obviously, different venue. We did a series of assessments and work for in Central America in anticipation of Central America Free Trade Agreement, some work in Southeast Asia, and then stuff in Ethiopia, sort of with a regional focus. So a lot of the stuff around process management, streamlining processes, and also the community engagement. Very exciting stuff that I've done before and had a lot of experience in.
What parts of the economic development plan do you think match up with your skills?
Yeah, so definitely the streamlining the processes and the community engagement, I would say, are the two things that I've done a lot of that. So part of my job was to go in a country, so we would do several months of work before we went into a country, my team, having been contacted by the High Commission or embassy contact. And I would go in, I was kind of the advanced team to set up all of the community engagement. So I would work with like a local interpreter, and then maybe somebody from a local business school or law school to help me to set up all of the appropriate interviews and get everything and map out who do we need to talk to, who are the major players in the particular area that the mission wants us to work in. There was 14 different areas in every country. Pretty much they would pick, okay, well, we want these different, it wasn't the same in every country. So you had to be very flexible. So I'm good at adapting, of course. And yeah, so that was fun job.
What were some of those countries?
So I did all the Central American Free Trade Agreement ones. So Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras, and then I did Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Philippines, and Egypt twice.
Were there specific, when you talked about those 14, was it different sectors or industries?
Yeah, so it would be different for every country, right? So if they had the agricultural sector, and the issues, like Costa Rica was closer to tourism, their ecotourism. So it'd be different for every country. For me, my specialty was as a gender specialist, that women can access banking, access the local business registry, and all the things you need to do to encourage entrepreneurship.
Have you attended any meetings?
A few.
Have you? Yeah.
How many years did you work and when did you stop?
So I did about 6 years of that. Then I took internal business operations position with my first child, and then left the second child. So
How did you get involved with the ID?
I got lucky with the program manager picking my resume out of a pile. So I just got my foot in the door with a basic administrative position, and then I kept proving myself. I got more work.
But you never worked for Matrix or ARD at all? And when did you leave ARD?
It was 2000. Second was more, well, a little before that, like 2019.
Okay, so way before what happened in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So my neighbor lost his job because he was
Yeah.
working for Matrix.
I had several friends who are still unemployed or underemployed.
Other questions?
You've got a secondary interest in park and recs, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, do you want to talk to that for a minute?
Yeah, so I think, so watching the process a little bit with the plan for that, again, I like plans and I like implementing them. So I think that sort of any needs assessments or that type of thing that would be needed, my experience with one. I want to get in and really do an work in the community.
Do you use any of the other partner programs today or have in the past or
Yeah, so my kids have done some of the summer camps.
sometimes? Any of the sports activities or?
No, I'm not a sportsy person.
How do you think our partner network compares to other cities and what would you want to change?
Definitely more diversity, more offerings and infrastructure in them. So So we need some larger, like we moved here from Fairfax County, Virginia, and they have, of course, a pretty large park system. And we would have like different parks, like for different age groups of kids. So we have very limited playgrounds, really. So there would be, you know, like the little, they call them tot lots. I like to see, you know, for sort of the smaller little guys, and then older teen hangout spaces. There's also a lot of stuff around sort of various places for teenagers, which is kind of near to me since I have a teen and a tween.
So did you work for USAID or you consulted with them?
I was a consultant.
Okay, and which company did you work for?
Who's Ellen?
Who's? Any questions for us?
Yeah, what do you kind of see as the economic development community's next steps?
Good question. That plan. Oh, the plan.
Like I said before, there's a fire and some projects in that plan, so they're wrestling with how much of that they can even take on. Mark, but right now they focused on 3 streams. But there's many more potential streams in that plan, so.
Yeah, my sense is the limitation, I mean, the committee had to prioritize the 3 streams based on that fire hose that you talked about. So the talent that comes on this committee could either, you know, go right into the current 3 streams that have been identified or focus on all of the other activities that are, it's a really well laid out plan. I'm sure you've looked at it.
What do you think is the biggest economic challenge right now?
Making sure that our small businesses don't get left behind.
The small businesses?
Yeah, really focusing on small business. And that's kind of like, was near and dear to my heart because I was working with a lot of entrepreneurs. And I know, we have tech companies and the tech hub, and that gets a lot of attention, but we want to make sure that our little guys aren't left behind, and sort of the processes that are put in place, that everything works for them too.
Thanks for coming, we appreciate it, and, you know, we'll let you know about the 15th one way or the other.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, you see Leander Houseman out there?
I'm sorry?
Tell Leander to come in.
Leader?
Houseman.
Anybody can out there.
I saw him arrive. He's a former colleague. Good evening, Leander. How are you?
I can.
Nice to see you again. Good to see you. You're applying for the energy committee.
That's correct.
Right. How much energy do you have right now?
Just enough to make it through this meeting.
With or without dinner, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, give us some of your background, please.
I am from the Netherlands and graduated from Delft University, and I got a PhD at Harvard. I bounced around for a little bit as a postdoc and visiting scientist until I joined IBM.
You say statistics, right?
Pardon?
What do you say, statistics?
Physics.
Physics.
And then I joined IBM, where I worked first in the research center and then here in Burlington. And eventually I was laid off. Did some volunteer work. I actually taught for a little bit at CCP. That was not volunteer work. That was actually paid. I taught physics at CCP. And then I started looking around for interesting things to do. And lately, the last couple of years, I've gotten very interested in climate change, global warming. And at some point, I decided it would be nice to see an actual energy committee at work, see what they do. So I attended a couple of meetings here and I decided that it would be a committee to form a part of.
And I have have seen you at some of the meetings.
Yes,
So
yes.
nice to see you in person.
Yes.
Here's my question. Do you, how, on the, spectrum, say, from, trying to analyze and research and, be really thorough to get stuff done, because we gotta do it. Where do you fall on that spectrum? If I can say that's a spectrum.
I'm definitely more on the analytic part. I like to understand how things work, why fossil fuels cause global warming, how other energy sources would improve things or would not improve.
I guess, so let me fill out why I asked the question. We have a great energy committee, a lot of talent. I have to say I've been personally frustrated. I'll just say that, that it's a group that likes to think a lot and not maybe do. I'm not saying that in a disparaging way. It's a complicated topic, right? And I'm wondering if you came to that group, where you fit in that mode. Would you be a doer or a thinker?
And I think that's a bit of an overly binary
Binary.
way of looking at it.
Yes.
One of the reasons that I got interested in actually more what happens at the government level, not so much climate change, but the energy change from fossil fuels to cleaner fuels, is that I realized that the last couple of years, I have been very much theoretical, very much analytic, that doesn't get things done. There are practical issues involved in making a change in just about anything. And at some point, those like me who like to think about things and figure out how things ought to be done, have to show up and see to what extent they can make that happen in reality. So am I a doer? I don't know yet. I think I can when there is a good reason to do so. It's not my natural thing to do, but as somebody who's very interested and very concerned about these energy issues, there comes a time you actually have to, well, roll up your sleeves and start doing something.
So just to sort of, bounce off of what Andrew was saying. I'm not a liaison to the Energy Committee, and I was on the Energy Committee before I became the liaison. And there have been, some, there's a suggestion that some folks on the committee may not have the bandwidth to carry out some of the plans that they have. So I know you've been to the meetings, and by the way, thank you for stepping up to volunteer for this. I don't mean in any way to grill any of the applicants tonight, because it's really an honor that you all have shown up to do this. So going back to what I was saying, there's a bit of inertia in getting the projects underway and getting them done. And you've probably heard Lou Greasy say sometimes, that's a great idea. Now we need to put that on paper and make it happen. So I'm guessing that you kind of feel like you have the time for it at this point, and you're willing to jump in and do that. So I'm just wondering, is there a particular project that you would be really excited to pursue that the Energy Committee has talked about?
I think for me, the project would be the change from a fossil fuel based energy production to something else, that is going to take a lot of work, because there's an enormous infrastructure built around fossil fuel that has to be replicated by whatever alternative comes up. To me, that seems the project I would be interested in. I don't know if does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does answer my question. Thanks. It's a hard question, but yeah, thank you for it. Okay, yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you for applying. To me, there's nothing more important than we just articulated. It's so hard to do. It's so hard to change. The benefits are not tangible to us here, right? Because they're dispersed throughout the globe, and that makes it even harder. There's tons of misinformation. So anyone willing to tackle that, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Did you get to go to the energy fair last September?
Yes, I did. And it's gonna be done again this year, I understand. So, yeah, oh, absolutely. I was actually, last year, I was tabling with $350, maybe I shouldn't say that. No, that's fine. $350.
Primarily group.
And I actually will do that again.
I guess I would just say if, you are selected, let's get things done. Let's get things done.
As long as getting things done does not become so important that we start cutting corners.
Oh, I think that's.
Any questions for us?
Not really. I've been at 2 meetings, so I have a reasonable idea of what gets discussed and how things go. And yeah, that part I can have. And for the rest, like getting things done, I'll see what transpires.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
We'll be in touch by, okay, one way more.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Next is Stephen Koloff. For Stephen or Steve? Steve. Thank you for coming. Thanks for applying. This is for the Natural Resource Committee. Little some background about yourself? Sure.
I've lived in South Burlington for 16 years, moved here. I've worked in South Burlington since the late. I've worked for a company in South Burlington since the late mid-90s, ICS, and I retired from that company in 2021. ICS is an engineering control systems located down in Sweden.
What kind of controls?
Mainly industrial.
Like machine controls?
Machine controls as well as things that get used in, say, manufacturing facilities, wastewater treatment plants,
Right.
Water.
Is this PLC type stuff? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I worked on the database side, so I worked with
Okay.
generally data collection systems like at Evergreen Mountain, at Berries. Some work for gas systems.
Do they use any on-logic computers?
We did, yeah, definitely. They did use, well, I don't, any specific company, but yes, they have purchased for various projects.
Stephen, I don't think you worked on our project, but Hallam also did the engineering for the district energy project in Montpelier.
Really working on, database works.
You did work on that?
I worked on the date, no, I didn't work on that project.
I don't want to talk about.
Interesting. Then Bill Newberger is one of my best friends. It's an interesting, engineering firm in South Burlington, and I don't think we own as a South Burlington company.
If we get going on databases,
Yeah, that's-
we'll never do it. So I'm purposely gonna stop thinking about databases right now because that's all you do all
So
day.
in spite of that, I did have 1 year of college, natural resources. Little bit. Courses in trees and forestry.
So Steve, I see that you have some really great ideas how to, be productive on the committee. So thanks for submitting those. Creating and implementing meadow management plans, et cetera. I see you've already got a list of, or you've compiled like a map or something. You've actually walked around the city and evaluated the natural resource areas. I wonder if you could tell the
Well, somewhat. Well, first off, I started coming to the meetings, pretty much every meeting, I believe, January. I started, Larry, Kupferman, asked me to help with the work group, on the Meadowman. So I just was informally assisting as a helper. And I worked with, Gina, Grace on helping study to help on the Meadowman. And last year I had gone around to all the open spaces, went to as many as I could, because some were at, but I went to them to see what they were and made a map of all, where they were all located, verified the acreage on the map to see that it all matched up on the data that was on the city website. And there was some discrepancies that I contacted Paul Connor to get resolved, and he understood that a little deeper. And so that's kind of how, that was about a year ago when I started really trying to understand the spaces and the natural areas and the open spaces.
So you get some GIS skills too?
A little bit. I tend to use mapping. I have several tracking and mapping programs like CalTopo and Gaia Tracker. I also have used QGIS, build a map in the area over in Essex between Indian Brook Reservoir and Colchester Pond. So over the years, I've done a lot of tracking there. So I decided to use QGIS to build a map based on data from Vermont, as well as all the tracks, to adding trails that are, well, there really wasn't a map. There's a map, of course, of Indian Brook, but I wanted a map of the whole area.
Steve, you noted that you added details that are not documented on the city website. What were the kinds of things you were documenting?
Just a more clarification of the state of the purpose of the land and what it actually looked like when I went there and saw it, various pictures. I got in, there's a city-owned property called the Scott property. I went there, took pictures, documented what I saw. And went to at least partially to some of the agricultural, which is most of it's agricultural, to see what, get a feel for what it actually was. And then on the map, just verify the acreage.
Do you have a wild lawn?
Yeah, well, a semi-wild lawn, that's enough. Actually, the rewilding with my partner Susan and I have been doing that over the years, and this year we're tending to things to make it better than it used to be, a lot more native plants, shrubs, to started digging holes and adding, some service berries, some witch hazel trees were growing, and culled out some things that were, we've culled out the invasives. A lot gone over the years, and then some extra hemlocks that weren't doing anybody any good. So yes, it's not entirely wild because, you have a dog and the dog loves to play, so we need that. We, kind of find that happy medium, but we do have rewilding everything.
And my brother-in-law said that I had, when I mowed my lawn, he goes, "It's a finely mowed meadow." It's a lot of plants and some grass, so. Other questions? So you've attended a lot of meetings, you served, done some work for the committee as well, looks like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the other thing that came up, and it actually got on the list of the work items, was the issue of outreach about human wildlife interactions. Because last year we had a rabid red fox in our neighborhood that did test positive for rabies, and that this year we had 2 suspected in the area, one street over from me, and then another street over, the two suspected.
What's
scum
going on
around
in
its
the
guns.
neighborhood?
But they got one and they tested negative.
Sounds like a movie, you know?
But the problem, it became obvious that there was needed to be, there needs to be a better system, you know, because although I spoke a lot with the rabies hotline, people just didn't know what to do, and there's a lot of confusion. So that actually got on a list. Let's try
When the airplane come over and stuff started dropping on your lawns.
Well, they did start this May with the rabies vaccine
Yeah.
drops.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be very effective.
We had a raccoon on the house next door, tried to eat into a Chewy box that I was supposed to move in the dark, and when I realized there was an animal on top, I backed off, but I took a picture and sent it to the neighbors going, there's an animal in your box and I'm not moving it. And then I took the box, and the animal came over the next night and got into our birdseed bucket. And then I took a picture and he's just looking at, like, no. Anyway, then he scared the neighbor, and they thought it was rabbit, so they called the police. The police came over and said, "This doesn't look rabbit to me." So anyway, it just goes on and on.
I think leaving chewy boxes out there is.
That's a different, especially in like early
That's
March.
fair.
I know when they're like this. Any other questions at all? Okay. Great, well, thanks for applying, and we'll
Thanks. Thank you.
June 15th, one way or the other.
Is it June or July?
June.
June 15th. Thank you.
Thank you.
You. Next up is Megan Booth. She's on the. I hope I pronounced that.
Hello.
Hey there.
Yeah.
Can you see us?
You put my video on. There we go.
We see you.
Perfect. I see you all as well.
Now, did I pronounce your name correct? Is it Megan or Megan?
It's Megan Huth.
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
No worries, no worries. And apologies that I can't be there in person. I'm visiting my mother in outside of Buffalo, New York.
Oh,
Well, thank you for joining from Buffalo.
this is the beauty of technology.
It is. It is. If anything good came out of the pandemic, this is it.
Yeah, exactly. And you're applying for a spot on the Natural Resource Committee. So you want to tell us something about yourself?
Sure. I academically, this is kind of my background. I have a bachelor's in environmental science and a master's in resource conservation. But I think more importantly, these are the areas that I've been working in for the last 30 years almost, but largely in international work. So I haven't, only about 4 years of my work experience has been in the US, and that has been with land trusts, both in Wyoming and then the Hudson Valley in New York State as well. So since coming to Vermont 16 years ago, I've been working in international development until I left that job in January. And there I led a team that focused on land and natural resource management. So really helping communities to better plan and have rights to their land and access to their land and resources along those lines. So since I've have left that job, I've really been hoping to get more involved locally and kind of turn and use some of my skill sets to where I live as opposed to outside of the country. That's a very brief overview. Happy to go into anything.
Did you know Mark Donahue at Tetra?
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
Mark, who just moved to California, I believe.
Just, yeah, he's his next door neighbor, and he had to move because,
Yeah.
you know.
Because of, so you understand where I'm coming from the, from my,
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, and have you been to any of the meetings?
I have not. No, this is fairly new for me. It's always been my intention to become more involved, but work and travel have often just kind of gotten in the way for me to be consistent with anything. So I've kind of held back. So I'm hoping now to really start to focus, whether I'm on a committee or not, you know, to really be able to join and become a stronger part of my community.
Where did you travel in Africa?
Lots of places. I largely was in Liberia, was the main place that I went to a lot over the last 10, 15 years, but South Sudan, Zambia, and Southern Africa, I'm kind of all over except for Northern Africa.
Did you travel far in Liberia?
A little bit up north, a little bit to Nimba and Lofa County.
Logo, yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
This was after the revolution?
Yeah. So the Civil War ended in 2003. And so it's really been since about 2010 that I started to travel and work there.
Oh, it's been that long.
Definitely lots of after effects, but yes.
Great.
So what would be some of the, first of all, thank you for applying. You're eminently qualified, like all of our applicants. So I'm just wondering, what are some of the things that you hope to accomplish here in South Burlington?
Well, I think it would be helpful for me. I mean, I see the areas that the committee is currently focused on, which are all fantastic. So I would also want to be learning from the team who has been active, but then contributing in any way that I can. So kind of stepping up and supporting efforts as needed. My interest is my work, my past has been focused more on conservation of land, protection of land, via, conservation easements or, kind of open areas, things like that. So that's where historically I've kind of been able to focus more, but I still think I can bring a lot to bear in terms of the specific management of land and activities that are moving forward.
Do you happen to have a wall one?
No, I live in a condo building, so no, that is very much
That would be
not.
hard. That would be hard, yeah.
I would love to, but unfortunately, that HOA, I wouldn't know.
You have a balcony with a little bit of grass on it.
We are so limited, as you can all imagine, if any of you live in any kind of condominium.
What sorts of things interest you about South Burlington's natural resources?
Well, it's my home for the last 10 years. And so, wanting to be involved in my backyard really and help preserving the beautiful open spaces that exist now, both agricultural land and recreational land, open spaces for people to walk and to enjoy. I think that being so close to Burlington and other cities, there is a potential for so much growth and kind of impeding on those areas. So making sure that those areas are really protected, and then being able to provide help, guidance, so that community members understand why those areas need protection as well. So I think being very, hands-on in the protection, but then also helping to communicate in that as well. It's such a beautiful area with so many different aspects, right? So you want to be able to have a space for development and then the recreation and open lands. So.
Any questions? In your work with Tetra, was there one specific natural resource type project you worked on that you'd like to talk about?
Sure. I'm trying to think of what one specifically. We did a lot of, so in South Sudan, that's the one that popped in my mind. As you can imagine, it was a new country. And so we did a lot of support in mapping particular parcels of land so that people for the first time had titles to their land. But then also just the mapping went along with then land use planning as well. So that hadn't ever really been officially done. So working with government and helping to train them up, because a lot of them didn't have necessarily the background, and then still communicating with the public to make sure that they were heard, that their voices were heard, that their needs were understood, a very agricultural area, but then looking forward to where it can be developed, what individuals had, what responsibilities they had for their particular parcels, et cetera. So I think, working on a lot of land use issues with communities, with individuals was very important with me as well as making sure that people had their rights to their land and had voices on what they could do with their land as well. In particular, minority groups and women and things like that who often were overlooked.
Seems like from people we've talked to that work in international development, a lot of stuff, good stuff gets done, and then upheaval occurs there that ends up resetting the clock or destroying it. But I never anticipated that the upheaval would be on our side.
But in both cases, I think what is such an important thing is that the knowledge management, the training exists, right? So that knowledge doesn't just disappear. So those individuals can then rebuild, whether it's overseas or here in the US.
The good work does persist.
Yes, exactly that. And I think I'm learning more and more. I've always known it, I guess, but it's become more obvious to me how important it is to have that work happen at the local level.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for us?
No, none right now. I'm just, pleased to be speaking with you and, look forward to, again, whether with a committee or not, to get more involved. So thank you for your time.
Is your mother a Buffalo Bills fan?
Of course.
Good.
Disappointment runs deep in my family.
All right, we will let you know by June 15th, one way or the other.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And we're up to the break. Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Is that okay? Yeah, makes sense. 5 minutes or less. I'll set a timer.
So, Tim. It's me.
Well,
But I saved her.
Did you abandon your kayak to do that?
No, I completely paddled, I put my kayak on the beach, on the bank.
Yeah.
Got her kayak, got her oar.
So they have. So you do go a little down the street.
I've been funding people.
What's your follow-up to that?
What?
They're like.
Yeah, I don't know, that was my adventure. I would do that every year, I just love that area.
You've gone, how many times?
6 times now. Yeah.
No, my brother used to go up to the Alligator, and almost got hurt. But I only went to the lake at Green Island, not Green Island.
With Moosehead?
Moosehead Lake.
Yeah, Moosehead Lake, yeah.
There was a little island that we passed on.
Yeah.
Nice. And once was when there was, we all had a lot of wine. And I was lying on my back, and I thought, I'm really, really coming down because the sky is short. Yeah, really. It was the Northern Lights, and they went on the whole night.
Yeah, we were there, I was there one time for the Northern Lights, it was there, it's unbelievable, the streaks. Yeah.
All right, we're back. Nope.
Hold
on. Yeah, we're back. Next up is Gene.
Hello. Try not to take too much time because I've been through a zillion interviews. I was watching some of it, it's just fascinating. You have so many qualified people for all the pros and board. It's really wonderful that people step up. Anyway, I know I didn't have to come to this, but I felt like I wanted to and do something unconventional that I wouldn't do in an interview. Because that's kind of who I am and what I feel like I bring to the committee. I don't own a computer, I don't own a printer, so unfortunately I can't be very productive in that way. And I have a dog who has severe anxiety, so I can't leave him home alone. It depends on the weather, so it's hard to go to the library. Anyway, so I want to start by telling stories. And a lot of this is from kids' perspective. So last week, my next door neighbor who struggles in school and who is barely outside, is mostly inside on a computer doing anime. I don't really know what that is, but he came out and we watched the sunset for 45 minutes. And the words that came out of her mouth to describe that sunset, I mean, I was just floored. I was like, how are you not good in school? Like, what came out of her? And she does not spend time outside. And she would see different shapes, and then she'd see waves in the ocean. And the joy that I shared with that 12-year-old, I mean, it just touched my heart. And I just love the kid thing, getting interested in this stuff. So I feel like I will share that with her forever. And we will continue to do it. The next story I have is maybe yesterday on the news. I saw the trout parade in Burlington. Has anybody seen that story?
I saw a parade, it was pretty cool. Yeah.
I heard fourth graders use the word ecosystem. I heard the organizing teachers say it was a beautiful intersection of art and ecology. Then Performing Arts and Trout Unlimited talked about our community, not just being the human part, but the plants, the animals, the earth we're on. And they said at its core, the parade is just a love letter to the trout. So I'm going to kind of jump all over, but this to me, my interest in ecology and South Burlington is about love, awe, curiosity, inspiration. And I didn't move to South Burlington for the city part, and that's developed a lot. And I get a lot of people want that. And I mean, I'm old, I've lived most of my life, so I mean, I have to go along with that. And I love where I am, and I have rewilded, and the difference in 1 year's time has just been unbelievable. And I have 3 dogs, so it's a little hard with wildlife, but right on the side of my house where the fence is, my neighbors filmed gray foxes, bobcats, possums, possum in the driveway, not playing with the cat, but just interacting pleasantly. And in my yard, I've had gray foxes. I have snakes, I have all kinds of insects, and I don't have money to buy a lot of plants, but I bought a few that will spread, so then they're free. Bee balm for the hummingbirds, and I back up to the interstate, so it's constant noise, but I can go out in my yard and have such peace and beauty. And I've let everything grow up in front, so it's very private, which it wasn't at all when I moved in. And so to me, saving whatever is left of the non-built space is hugely important. And I mean, it's important. I mean, I feel like I want to be a voice for the non-human species, the plants, the wildlife, but also selfishly for myself, I feel like nature, wildlife has given me more in my life than anything else I can think of. I've been in love from the time I was 5 years old with Jane Goodall, following everything about her. And she worked a lot with kids, and she has the Roots and Shoots program. Another story is my niece's daughter at 4 years old came to visit, and the excitement that she showed toward life. She would see a cardinal outside my mom's window. She too has never spent much time outside. Her parents were both alcoholics. She didn't have it easy, but she would point and say redbird. We'd go outside and she'd see a frog, and it was like the most exciting thing in her world. And it was 2 weeks of spending time with that child. And I felt like, to me, it's the epitome of the pinnacle of human existence, 3 to 5. Before kids are inundated with social norms, with having to look a certain way, act a certain way. And I just want to have that available for kids. And I played a ton of sports. I used to love all those activities, but I don't do any of that now. And South Burlington has that, and that is wonderful. But we also need places for people to do the things where they do fall in love, where they feel that awe, where they feel that interest and excitement and curiosity. Another child to me in grade 1 years ago was studying monarch butterflies, and I knew just very little. I became totally fascinated. I mean, that's just one of the most wondrous stories on earth of monarch butterflies and what they accomplish. So part of what I'm interested in is, I struggle a bit when I hear Parks and Rec meetings because I often hear the term parks for people. So my question is, what people? And tons of people do use the parks. But people also use, because I see a lot of comments on Facebook on South Burlington community stuff, of people who really want to go to Hubbard and not have any pavement. And I know that's happened. And I drove by and I cried. Because I know that one of my favorite things is to go to places where you look out and you don't see any human development. You see no houses. And when you go the downside, when you're looking up the hill towards the lake and you can't see the lake, there's spots when you can't see anything if you keep your eyes like this. And it also reminds me of the painting, Andrew Wyeth's Christina's World. There's a spot there that looks just like that painting. So those are my kids' stories. So I guess my interest is joining sometimes with Parks and Rec and trying to offer more programs that are nature-based or ecology-based. And I know other towns, I've been to talks at libraries about beavers, having authors come to talk about beavers. And there are plenty of people in Vermont who would do that. And the woman who was Miss Vermont last year, she has this beauty scene queen side to her, but she also is a wildlife rehabilitator. And they just do amazing work. I'd also like to get kids involved with Green Mountain Animal Defenders, puts out on Facebook every time there's an injured animal and they're looking for rides to rehabbers. And I think if somebody had done that with me as a kid, I would have just been thrilled beyond belief. So I'm interested in getting kids more connected to ecology and also the city, because I think that there's emphasis on climate change, which is all great. All this is great. But I would like to see an ecological lens. So every time you make a decision, how is this impacting the ecology of this area? And if it does, and you're making the decision, that's fine. But I like it to be accountable and transparent, that if we're making this development, these habitats are gonna go, these animals, plant communities are gonna be gone, and they're not coming back there. So I just like an ecological lens, and so I feel like my gift is to bring a lot of questions, which I do. I participate a lot in the meetings, maybe sometimes too much. But I push on people who present, and not because I truly have questions, and I feel like a lot of times nature ecology is out the window. It's about money and greed, and generally white men in suits making a lot of decisions that have destroyed our planet. And
Can I interject with a question?
sure,
I just need to make sure, so you're applying, you're an incumbent on the NRCC and you're reapplying for the NRCC.
yeah,
Is your second choice Parks and Rec? Is that what I understand? from
no,
your
I just want to have meetings with
Okay.
them
Okay,
to try to get some joint efforts maybe. And again, I think what they're doing is great, tons of people participating. I just feel like there's room for some more ecological things, like a trout parade or a beaver parade or a, you know, and they get hundreds of people at that.
So Peter, why did you want to re-interview with us?
Just because
You just wanted to talk and tell us what's going on?
I've been so inspired by all this kid stuff. And I think as adults, that goes. And I think we're.
No, it's.
No, it's not. We're so invested in certain things and jobs, and I get it, and making money and this and that, that I feel like a lot of what's good about our species was wrong. So.
Have to teach your kids to love nature. You have to teach your kids to love nature, and then they'll go to protect it.
So,
Any other questions?
Well, I guess because you're on the committee, is that part of the NRCC's goal to focus on that group within our community?
it hasn't been. No, this is part of what I brought up.
Good,
But
put on
they're
that plan.
thinking about it.
Yeah, good.
well, I appreciate you sharing all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being older, and my vision is, I don't have vision like from here to my feet, so all my time is spent in the woods hiking alone. And I can't do that now. So having a place close to South Burlington, means a lot to me to be able to do that. And if there are more than like 10 people in the place, I don't wanna go, I just get kind of freaked out. And I also think there are kids and adults who, you know, it's not just people who are on the spectrum I have trouble with it, ton of things, but South Burlington offers a lot, but I feel like I can't go because it's just too loud and too many people.
Thanks so much, Jean.
Yeah, thank you. That's really good. I spewed it all out, but.
No, it's all good. Thank you for your passion.
Right, thanks.
John Gleason or Jason, what is it? Yeah. How do you pronounce your last name? Jason, come on up, sit at the table here. You are applying for the pension advisory.
Yes.
Committee. Look at your resume, why don't you tell us about yourself and why you want to be in that committee?
Well, I'm getting a little older. I have a lot of free time. I'm very technical and analytical. I read through your city budget and
The budget or the pension advisory, or
No.
the pension fund?
city budget,
The city budget. Oh.
as well as many of the minutes of the pension advisory committee as I could find
Yeah.
or have access to.
Did you go through any of the packets that SEI provided? Or did you just have the minutes by themselves?
And the minutes, and I have some information from so-called SEI. My background is such that I was the founder of AIG Captive Management back in the mid-80s. And over 5.5 years, I helped create 11 captive insurance companies with 160 million of premium flowing through them. And I am not a politician. I will tell you that up front. And if you're satisfied with the way the pension fund is going now, I can end this right here and walk out the door. I honestly think, after reading everything, there is tremendous room for improvement. I think that you could easily, based upon what I've read so far, in a very short period of time, meet or exceed all your funding levels and essentially do away with having to contribute from the city, putting funds into the pension fund. It looks to me as though there's been a lack of attention that's been addressed to probably, I'm going to say the second most valuable asset the city has, other than its people. Its value is near, give or take a few pennies, $52 million. And after reading various and sundry, what I've been able to get, reports from SEI, to me, it strikes of an investment policy or philosophy that is very unattended. I've looked at minutes, agendas and minutes of 4 meetings. $52 million. You had $52 million today, you wouldn't be sitting in this room normally. You'd be at home looking at your portfolio. The minutes lead me to believe, at least, that this committee, over the course of at least the past year, from the information I have available to me, has spent slightly more than a cumulative 4 hours of committee time in a year. There's meetings that end, the longest meeting lasted an hour and 20 minutes. And if you have presentations from SEI, actuaries, investment managers, etc., and the detail of which they provide, and this is based upon only what I can see, you're missing out on some tremendous opportunities. And that's my interest. My interest is to do things in a conservative way, but open up people's eyes. I think also the paperwork, the flow, here's an example. 2014, there was an investment policy written, I believe. 12 years, it's never been changed. Nothing stays the same. There are bits and pieces that I can point out to you where changes can and should be made. There are only 4 or 5 individuals and I don't know how many people are on this committee. Only 4 or 5 that have attended all 4 meetings. And one individual's name was not available for any of the 4 meetings. There are people who come and sit as proxies for somebody who should be at the meeting, and I don't know what the background or qualifications of that person as a proxy is, whether they can vote in that meeting or not, whether they should vote. So there's an awful lot of things that I've reviewed that I have questions about. I really think that 52 billion should be much higher than it is today. I cannot find any detail with respect to individual investments. There's some broad categories, and then there's a number lumped to them, but nowhere is there a list of, say, investments in mutual funds, what the name of that fund is, what the symbol is, so that I could go in and look at performance year to date, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year.
Yeah.
Over the last 12 years, you've had an investment objective of approximately 7.3%. You beat that objective 7 times. 5 times you have not met that objective. Over a 12-year period, you are slightly above by 1 or 2 points over what that 7.3% is. And you have money in certain categories. I'm not too sure is wise. So if there's a wish on the part of the council, who, from my perspective of reading, the council grants this committee a tremendous amount of authority to do things.
So let me just give you a little background. So the city has a contract with SEI to manage the portfolio.
I understand.
Right, and the committee is, each person on it has a vote for small changes that can occur at the behest of SEI or at the behest of the financial manager of the city, with the advice of the actuary for the performance that we need over the course of the years because of the number of participants and the fact that it's actually a closed pension fund now, in the sense that there are no new entries coming in. So
what if no new entries are coming in? How is the city providing any pension benefit for any new employees?
So that goes to the state. So these are the things that you would learn if you were on the committee over time, right? And how the city allocates the funds for those different.
So you're part of the Vermont Beamers,
whatever. Beamers.
Yes.
So new employees go to Beamers. There's a block of previous employees that are in the old system, the old pension. That's what this is for that plan.
Okay.
SEI is the administrator. They take care of all the logistics. They make the payments to all the people who started the pension.
That I understand.
Yeah. So that's what that position is. We don't really have any time left here to go into greater details because we still have another.
Well, I wouldn't mind asking John. I mean, what a few things that you change? What would you change?
I'm looking at, and I think the point you just made about going to Beamers is something I was not aware of.
Yeah.
It's not written anywhere.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would caution you to look into what Beamers is doing,
Well,
because Beamers is not
that's not.
performing as well as.
But that's a state issue, and that's not what this committee position is about.
No.
So.
I understand that.
So we're out of time. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Great. John, thanks for applying. Appreciate it very much.
Okay.
Thank
We'll be
you.
in touch by June 15th. By June 15th, we'll know, you'll know one way or the other. Thank you. Next up is Michael Midtag. That sounds familiar too. The Planning Commission. We're now on Planning Commission. Well, you're on the Planning Commission, remember?
I am.
So you are an incumbent.
Yes, about having expired.
Oh,
My term expires this year.
right. But you wanted to come and interview anyway. Okay. Well, what do you want to tell us about your experience on the planning commission and why you think you should get it?
You want, well, my experience, I'll tell you more about why I want the planning commission.
Okay.
Because my formative years were maybe who I am. So I grew up on a small 28-acre farm in South Africa, just outside Cape Town. The farm was run by my parents, my brother and I, and 2 staff. All of us, other than the permanent staff, had other jobs. It was partly 8,000 vines for growing grapes, which were for eating, called table grapes, which were exported to Europe, and a 20 animal Jersey stud and dairy. So half of the acreage was the vineyard and the other half was pasture. Given the climate, we didn't have to make hay. There was pasture all year. But as growing up in a very natural environment, it was still a very large farming area, famous for wine. Some farms have been making wine since the 1690s. So I was very much involved with nature. Was a keen ornithologist. 64 species on that 28 acres I identified. And I'm still a keen birder. It's just that my eyesight is as good as it was. And we had other wildlife passing through, small antelope, river otters, lots of squirrels. And my parents were very, very conservation minded. No tilling, cover crops wherever needed. And that's that experience growing up on that farm and the larger 5,000 acre apple farm that I spent a lot of my youth on is why I'm nature oriented and why that's my kind of focus when we're talking about new land. I'd like to say land use developments because the terminology is used quite often now, even by the state, rather than land development, which some people find is misleading, because really it is land use and not all development. So that's why I joined the planning commission in the first place, because I thought I could bring that kind of sense of balance. I have sort of a few things that sort of guide me, and one is to strike a balance between the environment, the built environment, and the natural world all around us. And I think South Burlington has done a creditable job of that, but there are always opportunities to do better. The other thing that guides me is that we should seize any opportunity which will increase density in the growth areas of South Burlington. Without density, you'll never have effective or viable public transit. We're beginning to see it here in city center, but we've got a long way to go. So that's important. And I think also density and multi-use buildings which are higher and occupy less ground space are also very tax efficient for the city. Single family homes and that sort of thing are not very tax efficient. We should also I also want to seize every opportunity to mitigate the effects of our rapidly changing climate and do no harm. That means when we're talking about zoning or regulations, I don't want us to advance any plan that would have a negative effect on the quality of life of all our residents. And there are those, but I'm at pains to avoid that. That's sort of those are the things that guide me on the planning commission. Apart from that, I've reapplied because I think I can continue to make the kind of contribution that I have over the last, I don't know when I joined, 2017 maybe, I'm not sure. I'd like to continue to make that contribution. I feel it's important for my well-being as well as the city's. Questions? I think in my application, I probably highlighted a lot of that in answering the questions about climate resilience, inclusive and fair, people-oriented, and collaborative. Yeah.
No question.
No questions, Your Honor? No questions,
No. Yeah,
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for the opportunity to. Yeah. Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks for replying.
Well, I have to say the same about you guys. All the effort and time you put into running the council and running the city. And Jesse.
There you go.
Running Jesse.
Yes. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Next up is Megan Emery, another name I've heard before. Go back and look at the resume. Good evening, Megan. How are
Good
you?
evening. I'm very well.
What's new?
What's new? It's a beautiful June day in South Burlington, the sun's setting. And I'm back in this building after several years of not being.
You've been in this building before,
Been here many
and
years.
other buildings too.
Back with pleasure. Yeah,
Why are you applying to the planning commission?
because I want to contribute. I have many years of experience of serving the city and gave me great pleasure. It gave me, I think, more than pleasure. It gave me, I think that we all need to seek a purpose in life, and service is one of the purposes of my life. It gives me meaning. And, just to give you some background, like Michael gave to you, I grew up from the back sense in the Chicago area. So I came from a major metropolitan area, but spent my summer vacations in Wisconsin. I have a dairy farmer great-grandfather, so it doesn't go back too far before I work in the land. And I am also a French professor, so I have studied various iterations of my philosophical specialization, which is 20th century existentialism. And I looked at it with regard to the Algerian War. I'm looking at it with regard to women, and I'm looking at it with regard to urban planning and development. Philosophy is an amazing thing. Because what we need to do is we need to make these great needs that we have as a society, such as transitioning to net zero, into stories and into human related plans. And that's something that the philosopher that I study in particular, philosophers, I should say, that they're very good at that. So I went abroad to study what people were doing in France. I got a Fulbright scholarship, which was amazing. And spent 3 months in a city that looks very much like ours, the Burlington area, and that's why I chose to study there. And 3 months in the major metropolitan area of Paris, to see how they were working on the affordable housing issues. And I come back to you with lots of ideas, confirming that we are on a really good path here. That the 2022 regulations, land use plans are really, I would say they set us up for a good future. And I feel just so gratified to have been able to participate in that and to see this beautiful city center park and walking and biking paths. And now you're working on Route 7. there's just so much in the city, and city center, of course, it's just awesome. So I would love to serve again and to see how we can put our plan, but also just amended the form-based codes. Are there other things that we need to work on? I don't come here with an agenda. I know the chair of the planning commission quite well. She's a wonderful leader. And so I would be one of the commissioners and bring my expertise and knowledge and my experience, having lived in the Chamberlain neighborhood for now 24 years, commuting by bus to work in Burlington, taking my bike to go on the bike paths, visiting all of the various neighborhoods and for various seasons. So I would just bring that experience to the table. That's what I'd like to say.
So there's no requirement for you to be on the planning commission if you had been named in a lawsuit against the city?
Oh, come on.
That would be two people who have been formally named in a lawsuit against the city on the planning commission.
Fortunately, that was found to have no basis, and I can thank Justice Sotomayor for that. Such a went all the way to Washington, yes.
Megan, I'm curious to hear if you had some things on your sabbatical or your research project that you believe would be new to what we're doing here, or you'd like to see incorporated.
Well, I think it's fabulous that you're going up to 14 stories. That is something that I definitely see, that I saw. What I saw was how they are bringing, we need to weatherize, right? And South Burlington, we have some houses still that are in bad need of that, right? Other parts of Vermont are really in bad need of that. And the way that they are doing it in France, one of the ways is they are insulating from the outside, and then they put wood on the outside. They're doing it to schools as well as housing. And I think that this is something, especially for subsidized housing, that is even being prioritized over the market housing, where private individuals are keeping up with the subsidized housing because that is led by the state. So that's something we could do. And what we are already doing, and what I saw over there, was making sure that there are parks and walking paths and bike paths close to every new housing development. And what they're having to do, and I see this in Burlington, they are greenifying their city center, which is just like Burlington. Even with the new beautiful streetscape, if I could go speak with them, I would say put some raised beds with more green, because the temperature is still going to be too hot on those beautiful streetscapes. So we incorporated that into our plan. We could definitely do, more. I talked to Alana about that at the Mate. And yeah, I talked to Alana about a couple of things too. I can remember our conversation, which was a while ago, where I had some ideas about messaging, but that's not the bailiwick of the planning commission. So I'll have to have that conversation. But I would say that is something that I really do. The new person, yes. I really enjoyed that in the bulletin, and what I'll have to contact you. There's so much we can do, but I love in our parks how we have messaging and informing, and I see it's coming in the city center because I see all those stands there ready and waiting to explain what are you seeing in front of you. That is so important. Or I Spy with My Little Eye. Was it Jean, the woman who was here from the NRCC earlier? That's so key. So what's beautiful about our central school, that you can go over to City Center Park. And I know that was an argument I had when I was on the council. I grew up in Lombard, a western suburb of Chicago, and just like a lot of suburbs of big cities, there were farms. There was a farm next to where the school was built, and what was left of the farm was this beautiful vegetable garden. And the school my classes go over regularly. And just like she's suggesting, and we did drawings and all kinds of things. Anyway, all that to say that we are doing a beautiful job. I don't know, I have to say that we are really in a leading position, to answer your question, Elizabeth. I don't see that we have big holes. That I went over to see what they were doing in Hine, because I thought that it was similar. We could do more public transit, but again, that's out of the planning commission. But what we could do with the planning commission is we could make sure that those transportation corridors are really primed so that, with the influx of population, there could be more public transportation. With regard to what I saw both in Rennes and in Paris, solving that affordable housing, where they have 3 tiers, just like we do. They have the big A affordable, they have the modest income, and then they have the market rate. And they have various ways of doing that, but it's not very different from how we do it. The way they raise funding is a little different, which is interesting. Just like we have, I'm trying to think off the fly here, but it's $1,000, right? The $12,000 to give to kids or whatever. Well, what they do in France is people can invest, just like we have bonds, you can invest in a bond. And that interest that they gain is investing affordable housing. Or they have another one that is, they're gaining, not interest, of course, but that investment is going into, climate mitigation. So they have different funds like that. Hard to do on the local level. That's on the national level. So anyway, when you all run for president, I'll be your advisor. Yeah.
We have our Vermont obligation bonds or the bond bank.
There we go. There we go.
And we were in the last offering as the #1 recipient for 20, 30, what was it? Last one. March. The city, I don't know which anyway, one of the projects. We were listed first in the bond banks last time.
We were also listed 7th as a place to get a job.
Yeah, I know. It's all that. I love it. The Wallet Hub just loves South Burlington. It's very good. Yeah. I think it's great that we have farms, that I would say, Elizabeth. So we could think a little bit about that. I mean, our farms are beautiful in Vermont, but we have farms that could do better, including perhaps here locally at South Burlington too. And we need hedges and water. That's what we need. Hedges and water. So I just go out to the rural areas, this city there as well.
Good. Let's see, have you attended any planning commission meetings the last 6 months at all?
I have not.
You have not, okay, but
No.
you may have in the past as a liaison, is that possible?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and I.
I've seen her there before she went to France.
Yes, yes.
Do you have any questions for us? You know how the process works.
I know how the process works. I know that it's 2 times a month. Generally on Wednesdays.
7 to 9.
7 to 9.
Tuesdays.
Tuesdays, very good. Tuesdays will work. Yeah, that works with me.
7 to 9 or
Or,
no.
okay,
Sometimes less.
all right.
Good. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you,
Be
Megan.
in touch when we're
Thank you.
June 15th. Thank you. Thanks, Paul. Next up is Ravi Venkataraman. I hope I said that correctly.
Oh. I had a. No, one way for the time. I yield my time.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Ravi.
Hold on a second.
done. Okay. Mona, we're gonna bring you back in a few minutes. Okay, go for it.
Okay. Good evening, Robbie. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Did I pronounce your last name something like it should be?
More or less. It's Venkat Raman.
Okay, there you go.
It's phonetic.
Thanks for applying to the Planning Commission. You want to tell us something about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Ravi. I'm the Director of City Planning for the City of Winooski. That's my day job. I also teach a class on sustainable urban planning at UVM and serve as an internship coordinator. South Burlington's hosted my students in past years, and it's been a great experience for them and for the city. I currently serve on the city's Rec and Parks Committee. For the past 6 months, I've missed a lot of meetings as my work schedule has changed, and my Mondays haven't been as available. My Tuesdays are open, and I saw this opportunity, and I was like, I want to continue serving the city, and I want to open up the opportunity for some other community member to be able to serve on a Rec and Parks Committee, and so they can have a more active role, and I can have a more active role in serving the community. Yeah, I feel like Michael probably went over all the greatest hits pretty well. I'm very much focused on smart growth and sustainable development, making sure that we're providing housing, that we're meeting our the Regional Planning Commission's housing goals for 2050, that we're providing affordable housing, that we are providing amenities to housing. That's something that I was thought a lot on the Rec and Parks Committee, is making sure that we are placing amenities in a walkable distance, and those amenities are accessible and available for community members. And then trying to balance out our relationship with our natural environment, with the built environment. So making sure that that we don't flood during a storm event, and we have adequate stormwater, and that we have wetlands that can absorb that, and we have adequate tree canopy, and yeah. In my day job recently, I've been thinking a lot about the individual's relationship to the built environment and what that type of relationship is. How does the built environment reflect the people that live there? How does the built environment encourage people to move in the way that they do? And I'm thinking a lot about tree canopy and how do we encourage that, and making sure that on a day like today and later on in July and August, that people want to walk to places and have adequate shade. So yeah, those are the things that I hope to bring as a planning commission member to the city.
Great. Any questions?
Probably, Robbie, you have obviously real expertise in that. So I'm going to ask you maybe some detailed question, leveraging that, and apologize in advance. But what do you think about the government proposed scaling back wetland buffers, like wetland identification, housing, energy standards? How would you think about those proposals versus what South Burlington does?
With the wetlands, so the wetland buffers for Class 2 wetlands are 50 feet for a scientific reason. They aren't arbitrary, that there is a necessity to have that 50-foot wetland buffer to maintain the integrity of the wetland. And so that way the wetland can serve its essential function for ourselves, and also for our natural resources and our wildlife. And we're in this sort of hard balance of trying to make sure that we build within existing settlement areas, while also trying to balance out our natural resources. Personally, I would try to encourage us to maintain that 50-foot wetland buffer, so that way we maintain the integrity of the wetland in the long term, especially for those Class 2 wetlands that are over 1.5 acres.
I mean, you're probably aware, actually, South Burlington has a 100-foot buffer. We've expanded that.
Mm-hmm.
You saying 50? You think 50 feet is the right number, or what? I mean, would you continue to support the South Burlington 100-foot buffer?
I would continue to support that 100-foot buffer too. The 50 feet is the minimum. That's what I've seen in other places, and that's what I've read in other studies. And anything lower than that would impinge on the integrity of the wetland.
So you mentioned tree canopy as one initiative that you'd be interested in, and I think that's very important as our city gets warmer over the years, which is happening. I mean, it's actually, there's good data on that. So I'm wondering what actions have been taken in Winooski to achieve those goals? Because I spend a lot of time in Winooski and I see a lot of streets that have no tree canopy. So I'm just wondering what you think about that and how you do, how you encourage that in this city.
Yeah, it's been a work in progress there. It's been, we haven't made too much inroads in that yet. We're working on building up our landscaping and landscaping standards for that. The goal overall is to make sure that there is either tree canopy in front yards that could serve as tree canopy within the right of way. And then working with our public works department to make sure that there is that there are trees that are spaced apart, so that way that can serve as a canopy either on private front yards or within the right of way. Again, still a work in progress, still very much a draft, and a lot of conversations still need to be had on that. But even with Winooski, most of the houses are between, the vast majority of the houses and buildings are between 0 to 10 feet from the front yard, front lot line. So putting in a tree gets really challenging really quickly, plus with narrow roads. So to try and counteract that, we're trying to think of flexible solutions for that. And I've read studies that show that having any sort of native vegetation other than lawn actually helps with cooling down the streets. It doesn't have that same canopy effect, but it does help with cooling the street down. So that's the sort of push that I'm trying to going towards, is trying to encourage native vegetation, trying to encourage less lawns on front yards. So that way we can move towards having a cooler street in the long term, while working with the space that we have in order to build up a canopy over time.
Thank you.
Robbie, has Winooski struggled with the issue of construction noise? Because our planning commission has spent a lot of time discussing sources of excavation noise, either be it blasting or chipping, and it's taken a considerable amount of their effort to try and formulate regulations around it.
Yeah, I haven't had those conversations yet at the planning commission level, but I have received calls about it for recent projects. And it's tricky with zoning to do that, to speak to pinpoint the incidence of the sound, and then to monitor and evaluate, and then to get the person in the act of doing it, and then trying to work around that it's challenging. It's one of those I say it's one of those necessary evils for certain projects, just because it's a noise that needs to happen in order to build the project. I understand that, and I know that it's in a controlled time frame. With blasting, typically a blasting schedule is provided with permits, so that there typically would be some sort of blasting schedule that, in my experience, that I've typically had, and the applicant or the developer would notify neighboring properties that we're going to blast on these days, and so just to let you know. That seems, at least in my experiences, not only in Winooski but in other municipalities, that was pretty commonplace. In terms of the noise aspect itself, with zoning, I feel like I'm not giving you a satisfying answer here, but it is very challenging to regulate singular instances of noise that happens in a very short amount of time.
And what about form-based codes? Do you have those in Winooski?
Yes.
So that's other questions? Have you had a chance to attend any of the meetings remotely or?
I haven't yet. I've looked through recent um, materials and skimmed through some minutes. Yeah, seen some conversations about Bedrock come into play in recent meetings.
Did you read our entire LDRs?
I've probably done a read through a couple times. Oftentimes when I'm doing research on writing regulations, I turn to what everyone else is doing around me and compare and contrast and figure out solutions that way. So I've often turned to South Burlington's LDRs just to see how you've done it and how you've addressed problems that I might be facing in Winooski.
Has Winooski utilized AI as an agent to pose questions to its own LDRs?
No, not yet, but that hasn't come up yet.
You have any questions for us?
Not currently. I understand that I would be notified in a couple weeks about next steps, and I'll take it from there, it seems like.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you so much for applying. Appreciate it. Thanks for being interviewed tonight.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
We'll be in touch. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Next, we have Mona Tolba for Housing Committee.
So good evening, everyone.
Hi, Mona. How are you?
Hi. Very good, thank you.
Thanks for applying and thanks for being interviewed tonight. Appreciate it.
No problem.
You're looking to be on the Housing Committee.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You want to tell us about your background and why you want to be on the committee?
Sure. So my name is Mona Tolba and I live in South Burlington since 2012. And I am like an advocate for my community, so I would like to be, in the housing community because I see some challenges in the housing, it is not only in South Burlington, but it's everywhere. So we need more affordable housing in South Burlington because we also have the ISCVT and most of the people are moving to South Burlington. All the Muslim community are moving to South Burlington, and we need more affordable housing, and we need also more diverse people in the committee to just hear our voices.
You said that you have helped people apply for CHT housing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How do you get? How are you involved in that? What's your role?
Oh, okay. So I am a culture broker and community liaison. So I like helping people. I work actually in my daytime job as a public health inspector, but also at the same time I used to work as an interpreter and a translator. And I had this. I see some, many people they need to some affordable housing, so I help them, applying for CHT and getting some the housing that they can afford.
Yeah.
And I also I'm also part of the sit as a Just Transition Subcommittee for the Climate Council, so I'm a member there, and I involved in many things. So in my community, so I educate them in public health and how to save the planet, how to how to combat the climate change, how to we did the many focus group on actually how to prepare your homes for flooding and how to protect your home and how to and how to actually recover from floods. And so I wear many hats.
Other questions from the council?
It's really interesting that you've done so much advocacy work. So you had to sort of describe what the lived experience of the people you work with has been with regards to housing here. Well, I mean, I know that's a big question. I'm just curious if you could sum it up. I'm also curious what languages you speak, because
No, I speak Arabic, so professional in both English and Arabic, and yeah, and mostly I represent the Arabic community, but also I have very good connection in all other, non-English speaking. Like with I have some, good friends in Nepali, Swahili, and others. So whatever I have any resources, I share also with other community, not only the Arabic community. And so for lived experience, like I see a lot of inequity and a lot of unfortunate sometimes situation that our people face with housing, the standards of housing that they are living in. Like I know many families, they have very big number of kids, but they are living in a very very small, like I family of 14 living in a 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom homes. So I just want to bring these voices to the table, because when you are planning, you need to uh, take into consideration this, the needs of this growing community. Vermont is not only white population now. It has a lot of, of non-English speaker, and they love kids, and they want more bigger houses, and yeah, and they need also houses that they can afford, and we need also to increase the ownership for like house homes ownership for this people, and we need to help. I need to just raise these voices and bring them to the table. Then when you are planning, for them, and you're putting your strategic planning, you need to take into consideration actually, and your planning should be representing the needs of us here in the city.
Thank you.
Mona, your day job is Vermont Department of Health, is that correct?
Yes.
Can you describe what you do with that, in that role?
I'm sorry, what is
What responsibilities do you have in that role?
I inspect restaurants, hotels, some public health inspector. So I inspect all the restaurants, hotels, schools, but my area of inspection is Burlington, Winooski, Essex, and Essex Junction, not South Burlington.
Mona, what do you think is the biggest obstacle to building affordable housing in Vermont right now?
There is not a lot of there is not a lot of developers wanted to do affordable housing. They all look for profits, and they the only player now is the Chamberlain Housing Trust, and this is the only player. That's why they are we need to increase the chances for more development, and we need more money to be put for affordable housing.
Have you attended any of their meetings?
This is my first time. I was actually attending a housing event, and one lady, she said, "Oh, we need more people in the housing committee, and I think you need to apply." So I never thought about it, but she just took my email and she sent me the application, and she said, "Apply." We need more people from the diverse community to be on the committee, so we can also hear the unheard voices.
When do they meet?
You'd ask that. I think we're Wednesdays, second Wednesday.
In the evening?
Yes.
Yeah. And so the time commitment's okay, Wednesday evenings, once a month?
Yes.
Other questions?
No.
You have questions? Any questions for us, Mona?
No, thank you, and thank you for meeting with me, and thank you for trying to diversify the committee.
You're very welcome. Have a nice evening.
You
We'll
too.
be in
Bye
touch
bye.
other
Thank
weeks.
you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Next up is Jonathan. I'm late.
We'll just roll forward here. Evening, everyone.
Good evening. You're here also for housing.
Yes.
And do you want to tell us about yourself a little bit, why you're applying?
Yes. I'm John. I am the branch manager of Community Bank over in Williston. Recently moved to South Burlington last July. And I mean, not just in South Burlington, but really in the entire county, housing is fairly expensive compared to the rest of Vermont. When you look at the average income versus the average housing price, a lot of the community struggles with affording the average rent or the average home. And so doing what I can just to help alleviate that for our community members, help more people be able to afford housing without having to stretch their budget in other necessary areas like food and healthcare and all of that.
So in your role as the branch manager, what types of activities do you have that may expose you to problems with housing?
I mean, the biggest one is people just not being able to find an affordable home. They'll get pre-qualified for a mortgage that gives them 60 days to find a property, and they can't find a single one that they can afford that's in, stable condition and move-in ready. We've lost a good handful of mortgages at the bank because they just couldn't find anything. They tried 2-3 times with a 60-month pre-qualification, still couldn't find anything. And so, offering them programs like we have no closing costs, which obviously is my job to share with community members for the goals the bank has, but also as a community member, closing costs is a huge financial barrier for a lot of community members, and $5,000 to upwards of $20,000 out of their pocket. While most Americans, I think it's 43% was the most recent, can't cover a $1,000 emergency. So you take those two into consideration, taking out that huge financial barrier for community members can do a lot. But also making sure they know not just the pros, but the cons of programs like that, like low down payment mortgages. Yes, it's less upfront cost, but that raises your monthly payment. You also have to include things like property taxes, regular maintenance. So making sure that, you want to be able to afford $2,000 a month in rent with nothing else included. But if your mortgage payment alone is $2,000, you're going to have extra costs on top of that. So making sure that they're aware of those additional and taxes.
Do you provide, is it coaching or counseling as part of the process you go through?
Oh, absolutely. We want to make sure that people know what they're getting into before they go ahead. Take out several $100,000 in a 30-year commitment.
You're ready to mortgage, that's right.
Yeah.
You're ready to loan. Do you have a lot of activity with loans themselves, or?
Not the entire process. That's usually handled by our mortgage loan officer, but the upfront interaction, like I said, making sure that they're aware of everything involved in home ownership and not just writing the papers on the loan and getting the keys, and talking through what their actual needs are. Are they ready for a home, or are they just looking for a bigger space, something like that. And also providing resources if they are down the road looking for something, but they're just not ready right now, even if it's 5-10 years down the road, helping figure out where they currently are financially and helping them build a plan. Say they have credit card debt, trying to consolidate that for them, make a plan to better their credit.
Do you hold those mortgages, or do they resell them?
We usually hold them.
And how many states is community in?
Only 5 now. They just opened their first location in New Hampshire.
So what brought you to and first, thank you for applying and bringing your perspective on people's struggles finding affordable places to live and mortgages, et cetera. That whole complex of issues that you described. So what brought you here, and that's question number 1. And what do you think is a way that the housing committee contributes to resolving some of the issues that you talked about? What would you focus on if you were on the committee?
So before brought me to South Burlington, I used to live in Williston in the Finney Crossing Apartments. So my wife and I were just looking for somewhere a little quieter. We're up on Twin Oaks Terrace near the edge now, so a much quieter neighborhood. We were right in the path of the fighter jets in Finney Crossing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Luckily, it was usually midday. I did hear them a week or two ago out at 5:30 in the morning, though.
Can you hear the pickleball on the edge?
No, surprisingly. Sometimes we can hear the PA announcer at the high school though. I thought it was the edge at first until I walked past it and I was like, nope, that's still way over there.
Oh, boy.
That's a good little location because you can jump either on Dorset or Kennedy or the interstate, you know.
Oh yeah, everything's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I walk to the gym because we're next door to it. But also, I think I can help with the housing affordability by just helping build plans that will help keep housing costs from continuing to rise out of control. I mean, everything involved in it, not just renter mortgages, but building and development, both materials, labor, the land itself have all been steadily increasing over the years. So doing what we can, if there's anything we can do to help curb those increases, because the developers can only charge so little if they are being charged so much for the building process. Who knows, maybe a policy in place of every development has to have X number of affordable housing, and if there isn't already something in place or increasing that number or whatever needs
We
to
do
be
have that
done.
ordinances.
Yeah.
Do you make construction loans for people to build fresh? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, pretty much every construction loan we've seen has been out of Chittenden County though, because land, you can get a lot more land for a lot less, like Starksboro.
Okay. Do you loan for multi-units like maybe in some?
Yes, those aren't as affordable though. Those usually have higher rates. They don't have the no closing cost. It's only first time 1 unit primary residence mortgages that we take that barrier down for. Yeah.
John, I see you also potentially interested in the energy committee. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of people's larger bill as well, especially if they're a homeowner. I mean, my energy bill this winter was a touch over $300 a month. So, it's heat and electric is all under the electric, yeah. Yeah, our living room heater is Vermont gas, but every other room is through the electric baseboard.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is Grandview?
Twin Oaks.
Twin Oaks?
Yeah.
Oh. This is like 80s construction?
Feels like it, yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, no,
Not too bad. Yeah, only a few months of the year it gets that.
Yeah.
But anybody else with a similar system, you know, if they're making 15, 20 an hour working in food service or retail, they can afford $300 a month for an electric bill on top of their rent. So anything that's doable. I will admit, I do have more experience with housing than in energy, so that's why I went one and then two.
So the energy committee is very focused on climate related solutions, you know.
Yeah.
How that intersects with energy. So just so you're aware, that's like their focus, you know, it's.
Yeah, I mean, renewable energy
in
is
particular.
a lot less expensive.
Other questions?
I think so.
Any questions for us?
Um,
For process questions or just general anything?
How do committee meetings usually go? What's the tip? Obviously, agenda will deviate meeting to meeting. What's the typical agenda that you see during meetings?
I'm the liaison with the committee, so the committee has submitted a work plan to council, and part of the process we're going through is we have received the work plans. And we're looking at filling the committee seats now, and then council will meet in this month, later in June, to talk about policies, strategies, and priorities. So that will kind of dictate the work of the committee going forward. And I know that housing committee has proposed a kind of combination of housing needs assessment and a housing action plan consistent with the overall 2024 city plan. So that would be a large part of the work. There are a couple of activities the committee gets very involved in, notably Fair Housing Month in April. There was a number of activities sponsored by the committee, largely at the library to really for community engagement purposes. So there's those kinds of situational one-off type things, but the work itself would likely be geared around the work plan that's ultimately adopted.
Okay.
That's how this option goes.
And just out of curiosity, how is the data for that usually collected?
Yeah, actually, I think the last housing needs assessment was done, I think, in 2014. So I know the committee recommended in the work plan that update of housing needs assessment. So that could be through a consultant. It could be through, allocation of city staff resources if available. We do have a data manager, but there's a lot of publicly available information. But that is an open question right now, whether that component gets adopted in the work plan, how to source that data.
Okay. I only asked because I saw something recently that was, I can't remember what year it was, people saying census data isn't typically accurate because younger generations tend to not open the doors for strangers knocking, asking them questions. So that skews household size, number of Americans with children. So I was just curious how the data is collected to make sure that each generation answers.
Great. Well, thanks so much for coming in and interviewing and applying. I appreciate it.
Thank you all for having me.
Thanks for applying.
Yeah.
Be in touch by the 15th, one way or the other.
Okay.
And thanks for tracking Mark down for us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Where was that run?
Sorry?
Where's that run?
Oh, the 5K, that's in Essex. They actually just had it on May 3rd.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I missed this one because I was in Florida, but this is from last year.
Oh.
I got the cold, rainy one last year, not the nice one.
Thanks. We'll see you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Next up is the last one, which is Lauren Carr for Public Arts. Hi, Lauren, can you hear us?
Hi, yes, I can. Can you guys hear me?
I hear you and see you.
Awesome.
Good evening. Thanks for applying and thanks for interviewing live on the monitor tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't able to make it in person.
Well, that's okay. That's what this technology is for. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your background, yourself, and why you want to be on the committee?
Sure. My name is Lauren Carr. Originally, I am from Lake George, so upstate New York. I went to school at Syracuse University, and that's where I earned my degree in interior design, Bachelor of Fine Arts in Interior Design and Environmental. And I think, on and off, I'd say my whole life, I've kind of been involved in some form of arts and design. I grew up under general contractor. So my dad's always, I've always had some form of, kind of hands-on experience. And yeah, I'd say that's kind of like my background. After Syracuse, as I say, surprisingly moved to Vermont to start my career. And I had worked for Creative Office Pavilion, which was a Herman Miller furniture dealer. And I had, done a lot of space planning, design, office design, kind of, interior design type work when I was there. And then since then, I have been working for the government doing construction management, kind of, as I say, lease acquisitions. When a lease expires, I come in and kind of do cradle to grave, we'll say procurement. So everything from, you know, finding a space to doing all of the furniture design, all of the interior design, all of the building. You know, for those that aren't familiar, I typically say, you know, I do construction management, glorified project manager. It's just very broad. So yeah, you know, I enjoy my job, and I do a lot of art, you know, type things on the side. You know, I'd say, you know, recently my biggest hobby is painting. So I'm, you know, usually always involved in some form of, you know, something for my fun to fulfill that kind of creative side.
What painting media do you use? Do you like?
I do classes through CVU. I had met Jenny Joyner, and she does a lot of watercolor classes. So generally speaking, yeah, I do watercolor, but I do other mediums as well.
Have you had a chance to look around South Burlington and notice the public art that's out there already? And do you like what you see? Or do you see spots that you would think would be good locations for some new public art? And what do you think should go there?
Yeah. So I would say, so I live in Indian Creek. So I'm, you know, very, you know, kind of right in the nook of the near downtown. And as far as public art goes, honestly, I'm kind of more intrigued to learn more about Public Arts Committee and the scope and what you guys do. I have talked to Mark Bear a little bit about it because he's a colleague of mine. But I'd definitely be interested in learning more about it. You know, I'm familiar with what's here. I'd say most, you know, notable for South Burlington is when they paint the mechanical units, you know. On the roadside. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a very nice touch because a lot of places don't do that. And I think for me, I feel like that reads, okay, I'm in South Burlington.
So full disclosure, that's my wife that organizes that.
That's amazing.
It was a leading question.
We should be friends.
You know, she puts a call out on Front Porch Forum for artists to decorate boxes. So if you have an interest, you want to know more, contact me and I'll give you her email. And then
yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
So, you know, Public Arts right now, they're evaluating 4 submissions for a new installation that would go right where White Street is going to bend and connect with Midas Drive across from Al's Fries. And so they're in the evaluation for those 4. And in the past, they've done evaluations. And if you've ever been to JC Park, there's a strange amorphous set of objects that have a different colored filters in them, and they're in an arrangement on the ground. That was a couple of years ago that they did. And they also they selected those metal sculpture geese in the Goose Pond Park on Market Street. They're also working on a donation to us by a Vermont sculptor who works with steel. It's a very large humanoid figure called Jumbo, and we're not sure where that's going to go, but that's something they're going to work on. And they also hired a curator, right, for the ground floor inside City Hall that has an extensive gallery that's for public display. Right now, the students at the schools in the city have taken over that hallway. Before that, it was a Vermont Pastel Society. And there's a curator that was hired specifically for that purpose as well. And they also have submitted their work plan, and they are very hopeful that the council will support the funding for a cultural development plan for the city. So that's the kind of work that they're involved in right now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You know, I think I'm definitely interested and, intrigued to learn more. As what was I going to say? As you know, as far as my experience goes, I feel like the whole, we'll say, reviewing, that's a big portion of my bread and butter. I have handled multi-million-dollar contracts as far as reviewing, doing procurements, working on our, furniture contracts to handle large, contract level procurements. So both for space, furniture, and other, needs as well. So I'm very familiar with the whole RFQ, RFP process, working with various contractors, and very comfortable in that.
Does your job entail having to, if they have to redo an interior, is there sometimes a process for choosing some kind of artwork to go in those buildings?
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I should have mentioned that, but we, public facing agency. So I typically am involved in a large, we'll say, signage and mural artwork installation, come from everything from implementing our standards to designing, the space, working with the customers to determine how, where we want things, how much we want, public facing versus non-public facing spaces. Right now I'm working on a project in Brooklyn, implementing a lot of large scale mural artwork, to kind of, we'll say, integrate, the Brooklyn culture into our office space. So it, aligns with the customer basis and also, the employees that are working there.
Great. Other questions from the council? No. Do you have any process questions for us?
Not really, I can be in touch to, determine what next steps are, but just, would be interested to kind of learning. I think it's, if I recall, once a month commitment, and
I think it's the third Tuesday of the month at 5:30 p.m.
Okay. Yeah, I can make that work.
So thank you for applying. You're the last person we're interviewing tonight, and we will let you know one way or the other by June 15th.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you guys for taking the time to chat tonight. So look forward to hearing from you.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, Lauren.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.
All right. Well, that concludes the committee interviews on item 5. Item 6 is other business. Is there any other business besides that's a good idea?
Yeah.
I agree. No other business. We'll go to item 7, which is, do we want to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing appointments to these committees?
Move to enter executive session. We have that's it.
Second.
Oh, there's a question from the public first.
Yes, comment. Robbie is the most qualified candidate I've ever seen apply for the planning commission in this city. In the 5 years that I've been going to these meetings where people apply, it's so impressive to watch him in the other meetings he goes to. His breadth of knowledge, the way it connects to other topics is very extensive. And it would be a tragedy if he weren't the next person on that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion, we don't have a second. We have a second, Elizabeth seconded. And that would be to go into executive session and bring in Jesse Baker. All those in favor say aye. Aye. It is unanimous, so we will be in executive session momentarily. I'm gonna go for the